So I remember watching Superman for the first time and then feeling off about like the movie. Like I thought the movie was great, but there was something off about how Superman was in that movie that I didn't really like. Right? Not necessarily how Superman was like, cause he was great. How Superman was portrayed, he was great. How David Cornswet acted him, he was great. How the other characters interacted with him, he was great. But I don't like the approach they took to Superman. You know, when people look at Superman. Like when people look at Superman, I probably the directors, probably even James Gunn thought, I'm a Larper. I didn't read any of the fucking interviews, right? Um, they see Superman as this symbol of hope, that inspires hope into so many different people, right? But I feel like one thing that James Gunn didn't do that he could have done so much better, something that James Gunn could have done that I feel like Zack Snyder understood about Superman, but he was just too edgy to make it good. But if James Gunn did, it would have been so much better. The suffering, it's the suffering. It's always the suffering when it comes to symbols of hope. What is hope without despair? If Superman doesn't go through the worst shit you can think of, then him being the symbol of hope just falls flat. He just seems like a guy that's just happy all the time for no reason. You know? Like the reason why he's so hopeful as a character and as an individual is because of those struggles that he has. He understands a lot more than everybody else because he's been through it. You know, Superman may be an alien from a different planet, but he still has feelings. He still has all of his human struggles, right? Like this nigga, like I bet you talking to Superman about your relationship problems is probably like top 10 most satisfying things to ever do because this guy understands. Lois Lane wasn't just some she wasn't just falling over him. It was complicated. It's always complicated. So he would understand that. But I think that's what characters like what people don't understand about Superman. You know, Injustice almost Injustice understood that a little bit, but then tried to take it like the complete opposite route. But it just wasn't really it just wasn't written well, right? Like you put through Superman, I wouldn't even say you put him through too much, right? Because like just Lois Lane died, yeah, he crashed out. That's pretty much it. But like his crash out afterwards, after Lois Lane dies, a lot of it isn't very justified after that point. Um, yeah, and Zack Snyder, when all the shit that he did with Superman, all of Superman's um, inner turmoil and stuff like that. Zack Snyder did understand that, but he was just really not. He wasn't very good at like portraying it in a way where it's not like super edgy and dark for no reason. You know, him having to kill Zod. Yeah, yeah, that's a great thing to have Superman go through because this is his first time ever killing, and it has to be one of his own people. It's either they die or the family or like the family dies, and I think that moment itself, like standalone, is a good moment. Just like all the stuff leading up to it isn't very good. Like, what the fuck you mean? You leveled the entire city, and then like this one scenario, this one situation is like, oh yeah, now, like it's stupid, it's stupid. But like, I feel like Superman, yeah, Superman needs to be put through stuff. Like, also a thing I love about Superman is like sometimes Superman is a very powerful person. Superman is super, super strong. And so I remember seeing this somewhere else. I forget where I saw it from, where somebody was asking this character to like meddle, to like go in, like, come on, bro, they're fighting, go save them. And then he was like, nah, I'm not sure if I want to go in because whatever side I go in, that's the side that's going to win. So I feel like Superman should also have that mentality on some things. Like, I feel like the movie itself, it's like its main conflict shouldn't have been like what it was. Like, oh yeah, yeah, so the main conflict, I loved it. I like the main conflict, well, kind of. I just didn't like how everything was just like Lex Luthor. Like all of the feelings that Superman felt during like when he was being blasted because that he went into a foreign country and did all that stuff. Uh, when he was being blasted like that, but it was all like immediately resolved whenever everything came out. Like, oh yeah, it was Lex Luthor the whole time. But like, what if it was real? What if instead of that being a fake scenario, what if there was a war going on between two parties who did all of the proceedings, necessary proceedings to be at war with each other, and they go to war. But then Superman shows up and he deems one side, let's say he deems one side to be more specific, more sympathetic or something, more empathetic. And he goes in and meddles. He goes in and or and that's not we don't even have to do that. He can just go in, meddle with the battle enough, like trying to keep people alive and stuff, to the point where one side wins the war and the other side loses. But there's no one behind the wars. It's just that Superman went in and meddled with things and a side won because of it. I think that would be much more that would resonate much more with Superman's what they're trying to portray Superman's psyche at. Like in that interview would hit so much better if Superman was like more conflicted because he went in and relatively caused one side to win a war they probably weren't going to win in the first place. So now everything that was going to happen naturally is now completely stopped, all because Superman wanted to save a few lives. I mean, like, yeah, that's a very noble cause. But then the main point would be in the show would be like sometimes people die. You know, some of the greatest inventions that you have today was the result of a bunch of people dying. You know, like all of the things that keep us safe in today's society is only there probably because somebody died. Like all the nukes, a bunch of people had to die to get to that point. You know, a lot of our technical advancements happened during wartime. I mean, it's a sucky thing to happen, but yeah, wars are great for the economy, especially if you win. Like especially if you win and get great terms out of it. But if you lose, yeesh. But that's completely off topic. That's not what I'm trying to talk about right now. But like, yeah, Superman is a symbol of peace, symbol of hope. But what's hope and peace without war and despair? You know, like yeah, of course, like like the Doflamingo quote. A kid who's only known war finally finding peace would appreciate the peace much more than a kid who only knew peace and is still getting it. Yeah, the peace guy would take that shit for granted. The war guy would appreciate it for what it is. That's why you gotta hammer it in, bro. Maybe they could do that with the second movie. Show him that he's the symbol of hope, and then fucking nuke him in the second movie, and then continue to show why he's the symbol of hope. Like he's the symbol of hope for a reason. He didn't just get that title for being a pretty nice guy all around. Like that's not no. I mean, yeah.